Hello everyone, welcome to this edition of Media Marks Weather. It's great having you on the channel today. We're going to be talking about Tropical Storm Melissa likely becoming a hurricane. The big story is, how long does this stall? It's going to become a massive heavy rain producer, and that is going to be one of the biggest devastating aspects of this storm. Let's get into it. Looking at the infrared satellite view of Tropical Storm Melissa, you can see big ball of convection, a lot of the thunderstorms forming just south and east of the center of circulation. You can see how tall the cloud tops are getting here as we spin this around just south of Dominican Republic at this hour. So you can really start to see this system really coming together here. And we're going to be talking about this system for quite some time as it stalls across the north central Caribbean. All right, so starting off here with the GFS, and I'll show you the Euro and some of the tropical models. Yeah, this is going to be a long, drawn-out storm. Now, here it is on the GFS as we head through your Wednesday. It's basically the only, well, actually, it's not the only show in town. We've got another strong tropical wave out there, but we will focus on Melissa here first. That's going to be our storm that we're going to be watching for quite some time. This storm's going to slowly move. You can see the track by the official National Hurricane Center. And then we got the cone of uncertainty, which includes a large section of Haiti, Jamaica, eastern Cuba, even parts of the Dominican Republic. So here it is on the 23rd as we stretch through your Thursday. GFS is a bit faster and more progressive than the Euro. And that is going to be key here. Which model is going to make this solution happen? Well, the GFS is more progressive here, pushing it more towards the Dominican Republic. It's still agonizingly slow, but I'll show you in just a few moments. The Euro is even worse. So, of course, the National Hurricane Center, rightfully so, I think is going more in tune with the European model. You see the GFS here. What it's got going is it's got this high pressure, this double barrel high, and this trough right in between. It's more progressive with this trough in helping kick this system up towards the island of Hispaniola. Now, don't get me wrong, this would still be extremely devastating for Dominican Republic and Haiti. However, the European solution is even worse for parts of this north central Caribbean. And I'll get into that here. But here's the GFS. Let's show you here, making landfall in Dominican Republic and Haiti. Tremendous rains east of it as well, Puerto Rico. And look at this. This is a very large circulation. We'll continue to watch it here because it's got a lot going for it. And I'll show you in the intensity model forecast too. European is really taking this up into, I'll give you a hint here, major hurricane. So here it is, just meandering. Here's where the GFS does start to bog down because that trough moves out a little bit too quickly. And you see it kind of just stalls here north of Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. Agonizingly slow here to the north and to the east. And to the north of it, you can see our east coast trough here with high pressure building in just to the north of it. So that's something we'll keep an eye on here. GFS starts to move it out at the base of this trough and develop it into a major hurricane by that point. But thankfully, at this point, it would be well over the open water. At this point, the European is much different from this. And as we go behind it here through October 29th into the 30th, you can see we still have plenty of tropical moisture. It's possible we could have another tropical system form behind our main system, Melissa. And that's being picked up by the European model as well. That's why I really want to show you the European model run here, because the GFS, yes, we're not going to completely discount this possibility that it moves right over Hispaniola. But I do want to make note that the European is pretty well handling some of these other weather systems around it, like the troughs and ridges, very well. But here we go. The GFS, this is what I wanted to show you quickly before we switch over to the Euro. There's another system trying to develop here across the north central and northwestern Caribbean. The good news is it does look like it starts to get into an area of less favorable development, but it looks like intertropical convergence zone continuing out here. Thanks to our tropical tidbits here for our European forecast model, model analysis here for Tropical Storm Melissa. You can see as we stretch on into Wednesday, this low center heading towards the west, it almost looks like the Europeans kind of moving it a little bit quicker, but it does start to slow it down here. You see by Thursday, we haven't really moved much. One thing that's going to be a major problem, and as I mentioned before, is the flooding tropical rains. This is going to be a slow mover. This is a massive circulation, as you can see up here. The trough is way up here. So unfortunately, steering currents are very weak. High pressure is way up here, eastern Bermuda, unfortunately. And as we watch through Friday here, this has been inching more and more westward towards Jamaica. So if you're in Jamaica, please stay tuned. Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico here, eastern Cuba, and southeastern Bahamas near the Turks and Caicos. All persons should be watching this very, very closely. Look at this. Potential hurricane. By the time we get to the weekend here, 981 millibars just south and east of Jamaica here. So that's something we need to keep a very close watch on. European has been the further west over the last, say, 4 or 5 days, really. And look at this. It really stalls it, unfortunately, right near eastern parts of Jamaica. And if the European verifies, this could be very devastating. Look at this. 967 millibars on Saturday afternoon, this October 25th. This is really bad because this trough just gets hung up here across South Florida and the northern Bahamas. They're pretty much the subtropical high. There is no influence left. There is absolutely no steering currents here. And basically, this moisture is just going to continue to pinwheel. This is going to, become likely a hurricane, but the big story is going to be the massive rainfall amounts, which we're going to get into here. Because this is going to be one for the record books, I think. 959 millibars. Look at this. This is Sunday. It barely has moved much. It's just meandering just south of Jamaica by this point. 950 millibars. So it is possible this could become a major hurricane according to the European model. And the European model is a pretty darn good model, too. So this is something we need to keep a watch on. Now, it does start to... you're going to have your eye wall replacement cycles, but look at this. This is Monday, October 27th. It is literally right near the southern coast of Jamaica as a 962 millibar hurricane. And then it starts to deepen more, 943, 948. If you are in Jamaica, Cayman Islands, Haiti, Dominican Republic, please stay tuned for this storm. This is going to be one we're going to be watching over the next several days. This is a agonizingly slow mover. And if this verifies, like for Jamaica, this would be horrible. So let's hope for the best here and hope this somehow the steering currents can pick this up and move it on out. Right now, as it stands, confidence is low that that's going to happen because there is no steering current. So this thing's going to meander in the central Caribbean for days and days. Now, look what starts to happen by Tuesday, October 28th here. We finally start to see this trough try to dig up off the East Coast with a much stronger low. And that should begin to pick it up towards the north and east. Unfortunately, this is going to throw it towards Haiti and these highlands up here as a major hurricane and towards the southeastern Bahamas as well. And of course, the devastating rain as well, not just in Jamaica, but Haiti. Cayman Islands, I wouldn't count you out just yet either, but most areas, especially on the east side of this system, that's where the worst flooding is going to be. And you can see Wednesday, look at this. This is a week out, and we're still talking about a hurricane here. Finally, it does start to move away from any land. We're going to have to watch Bermuda, though, because it's going to make its way up. And I hate to say this, look at this train of tropical moisture just continuing right across Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico here, even down in through parts of Belize and Honduras, although Central America, you're getting lucky with this one, I must say, so far. Please, if you're in Honduras or Belize, still watch, please, even the Yucatan. But here's another tropical wave southeast of Trinidad, Tobago, east of Barbados, St. Vincent area. There's our hurricane up there. It's making a glancing blow there to Bermuda. And you can see some tropical wave action really start to kick in behind it November 1st. It's almost like the tropics don't know that it's November 1st here, because look at this. We're seeing these tropical waves just line up here, and it's possible we could see another tropical storm try to develop here into the first week of November. This is really crazy to even think about this, but here it is. Unfortunately, more rain. Let's get this out of the way. More rain for Jamaica, Dominican Republic, right around November 5th. All right, I just wanted to briefly show you the rest of the tropics here on the European run. Yeah, look at how, if I just put this into motion, look how agonizingly slow Melissa moves down here. Thankfully, it looks like we got rid of the Europeans trying to... It's still too far out to tell, though, but this run of the European keeps a massive East Coast low, 989 millibars, Friday, October 31st here, and then safely takes us out to sea. But we're not ready to take the East Coast just off the hook just yet. But there you have it. And there's the intertropical convergence zone. You can see it's almost like painting an arrow right here into the Caribbean. So I wanted to show you the HWRF hurricane model here. Let's take the one that we can use here full length. The other one is still loading. So here it is. HWRF, surprisingly, taking it right. I would say it's right between the GFS and the Euro, probably more siding closer to the GFS, at least on the 12Z run here. You can see this moving to the east just like this as a hurricane 980 millibars as it makes landfall right around the southeastern portion of Haiti. Here it is. So, yeah, this would be very devastating to parts of eastern Haiti, especially into Dominican Republic. Feeder bands moving right into the Dominican Republic here. This would be very bad, but it would disrupt the circulation quite a bit as it slows down here. It does try to reorganize over just northeast of Dominican Republic. So what is the landfall point here? I mean, a lot can change between now and then, but that is pretty progressive here. October 23rd at 11 p.m. So we'll keep an eye on it here. Of course, a lot can change, especially over just the next couple days. Now let's take a look at the HMON model here, tropical model, as we just take, let's see how much of the 18Z we can take here. So we move this into motion. HMON is a bit, there we go. HMON is more in line with the Euro. Look at this, just west of guidance. We just take the 12Z run where we can actually run the whole thing. See, it has been trending west towards Jamaica. So there it is. That would be right around, look at that, 956 millibars. So somewhere right in here, that seems to be where we're converging together here. If we take a look at the intensity forecast models here, thanks to Tropical Tidbits, you can see Melissa, tropical storm over the next several days, but likely becoming at least a Category 1, Category 2, and some of our models are jumping up to Category 3, this one up to Category 4. North Atlantic sea surface temperatures, this is what I'm talking about here. The central Caribbean, where Melissa's going to be, this is like 3 to as much as 5 degrees above average. This is some really bad news. Unfortunately, this is what the Caribbean has been waiting for to tap into that massively warm sea surface temperature content. All right, so European run, liquid equivalent precipitation amounts here into the Caribbean. Now, this is with the little tropical wave over here in Nicaragua. Yeah, that's going to bring you about 80, 100, 150 millimeters. But the big story is going to be Melissa. And so far, it looks like Melissa's going to stay east. So, yeah, you will get some northerly flow here as well into Nicaragua, which will bring upwards of 150, 200 millimeters here. So watch out for that. Southern Belize as well. But this is what I'm really concerned about. Look at this. All the way through late this week, the weekend, into next week. All right, let's break this down. So we're going to zoom in here. Look at the Cayman Islands, only 40 to 60 millimeters. This is why the gradient is going to be so tough here. But look at this. As we head on into eastern Jamaica, 1,000, look at that, 700 to over 1,000 millimeters. There's a 12 and 17 millimeters here. So that's getting up into rainfall amounts of 15 to as much as 20, 3 inches in some of these areas. This is staggering. Western part of the island, lower 140, 150, and it quickly racks up as you get into the central part of the island, right around 500 millimeters. And then you go to the eastern tip, that's where we get upwards of 1,000, 1,200 millimeters. Haiti, it's not much better over here, 6, 7, 8, 900 millimeters. Southern Dominican Republic's right around 5 to 700 millimeters. Areas further to the north faring better. Puerto Rico, so far it looks like you're far enough east that you only get about, say, 2.5, 3.5 inches of rain, but that could change. Eastern tip of Cuba up through the Turks and Caicos here. Yeah, this is where you're going to get upwards of 2, 3, 400 millimeters easily as well, but by then the storm should be moving quicker over your area. And looking into the Eastern Caribbean here, after Melissa passes through, behind this, over the next several days, we'll have another tropical wave approach Trinidad, Tobago, Central and Southern Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, St. Croix, about 2.5, 3.5 inches, but that could change if this wobbles to the east. Watch out. A lot of the Virgin Islands faring well here, 40, 60 millimeters, but look at Trinidad, Tobago, some areas close to 100, 120 millimeters, up to St. Vincent, Barbados area, 80 to 110. All right, so looking at the GFS model here for rainfall totals, yeah, it's a little bit further to the east here than the Euro, so still a lot to work out between the two models. This one targets more Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Eastern Haiti. So here we have it. So ultimately there, Southern Dominican Republic. GFS does move it a little bit faster than the Euro does over Jamaica here, but here we go. So we're looking at a generalized 400 to 600 millimeters here. This would be devastating, especially the highlands of Dominican Republic. So anyway we cut it here, look at even Puerto Rico. This would get you up towards 6, 7, close to 8 inches of rain, even St. Croix here. So something to really keep an eye on. Lesser Antilles also 80 to 120 millimeters. So watch out with these tropical waves behind Melissa and also the outer feeder bands. This is a big circulation. Our future radar. Yeah, Ohio's dealing with this evening, some strong to severe thunderstorms in some areas, especially southwest and north of Cleveland here. Watch out. Some of these could be strong as they move through, damaging wind 45, 60 miles an hour. Yeah, that's going to be the main threat. And look at over here into the northeast. I just want to show you the surge of moisture through the Poconos, Catskills, and into the Hudson Valley. You could see some heavy rain bursting through overnight into New England as well. We get another line of convection moving through the I-81 corridor. And look at this. Actually getting some lake effect, trying to organize northeast of Cleveland, right over Erie, Pennsylvania, south of Buffalo as well. This is pretty intense. And of course, this is all going to be rain, but look at the lake effect bands just opening up behind this area of low pressure. It's going to make for a windy, blusterier day tomorrow and basically your Wednesday. And those lake effect bands are going to set up off of all of the lakes here as we stretch through your Wednesday into your Thursday, the 23rd. Look at 2 p.m. So lake effect's really going to kick across here. Don't really have too much severe weather here on into your Wednesday. Generalized thunderstorms, northern New England, northern New York, southwest, South Texas, and Florida as well. And then as we head on into Thursday, there is actually a slight risk, panhandle of Texas into Oklahoma as well. And here we are on the GFS, picking up where our future radar left off as we continue on into Thursday, the 23rd. There is all of that. Let's get that out of the way. All that lake effect kicking in behind this system. So yeah, it's going to be pretty stormy. Also going to be very, very stormy down here into the southern plains. So that's where our attention is going to turn to in the 24th as we get on into your Friday. It's going to be interesting. All eyes are going to be on our hurricane out here as well. But there it is, Gulf coastal areas, high pressure centered along the East Coast for your weekend. Into the Great Lakes and Northeast. That's some really nice weather. But there it is. It tries to run into that area of high pressure, and it doesn't make much headway. Here's a bigger storm. As we stretch through the 28th into the 29th, we do get some rainfall into Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee here on up into eastern Michigan. Eventually western New York and western Pennsylvania as this plows into this area of high pressure the 30th and to the 31st. European is much more stronger with this storm, which I'll show you in just a minute here. Europeans going crazy with storminess lately. But there it is. We get a few lake storms up here into southern Ontario and Quebec. Lake effect kicks behind it here on November 3rd. Another area of low pressure trying to form along the East Coast right around the 3rd and the 4th of November here. That could be quite an interesting coastal system. And then we get this lining pattern of storms just raging through the Midwest to the East Coast here the first week of November. All right, looking at the European, where we pick up with our future radar left off. As we cruise on into the rest of your Thursday into Friday, you can see where the trough is setting up here. We do have a ridge of high pressure trying to build in behind this trough, though. Look at the southern plains. That's where we're going to see some strong to severe thunderstorms with heavy rain as well. High pressure really dominating the east, though. That's going to be forced southward towards the Panhandle of Florida as we head on into Monday. So really, if you take the weekend here, look at this. Really nice up here in the lakes northeast. Just a little cool, but that's expected this time of year. Right around Tuesday next week, the 28th, this is where we get a coastal low trying to crop up here. And that's what's going to bring the Outer Banks here, some gusty winds and heavy rain. Thankfully, that heads out to sea. But look at this. That's some mixed precipitation here in the central Appalachians and here in upstate New York for next Wednesday. Can I get some cold air? This is quite a trough, a big air mass change. Well, all eyes will be on our hurricane as well. That could push a stronger low pressure here. This is, look at this, some Allegheny snowfall here and ice. We'll have to keep an eye on this. This would be a massive coastal storm heading inland if this verifies for October 31st, heading on into southern Ontario, and that kind of fills in and moves to the northeast. Trough really digging tough across the east. Look at this. Coastal low after coastal low after coastal low through the first week of November. And liquid equivalent precipitation here on our European run. Yeah, it's going to be showery and stormy up here in the northeast. Lake effect's going to kick in. Lake effect rain showers, that is, where that it does occur an inch on average. And then look at the southern plains and southeast here. This is where we're going to kick off a big storm system over the next couple days into the weekend. And then look at this as we get into next week. Look at that, a big coastal low blasting up the coast here on the European run. 2 to 4 inches in some areas of rainfall. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on it here. Just look off the coast here. 7 to 10 inches. And here we go with rainfall amounts here on the GFS. The lakes in the northeast, and then the southern, the next couple days, and then the southern plains. We really get into it over the weekend. 3 to 5 inches in those heaviest severe weather outbreaks. And look at here. Yeah, it looks like the GFS misses Florida with this system. That's kind of puzzling. But here we go. A little bit less on the GFS than the European model with these coastal lows, generally an inch or two on average. Before we continue with more weather coverage, if you did make it this far in the video and you like it, smash that like button, everyone. It really does help. Question or comment down below. I'd love to respond and read your questions or comments. And don't forget, subscribe, bell notification button if you haven't. If you've been lurking on the channel for so long, what are you waiting for? Subscribe, bell notification button. You're alerted with all my future weather video updates. I am desperately trying to get my winter 2025-26 outlook out. The tropics keep getting in the way here, but I should have that out shortly. Let's continue with more weather coverage. Looking at our NAO index here, very, very stormy with that negative NAO continuing through the first part of November. And looking at our MJO index here, you see we're right around phase 3 here. We're actually going to be heading towards quieter times into 4 and 5. So that's kind of contradicting the NAO index. All right, so going up with our upper air pattern here on our European run, you can see over the next couple days that trough across the east. Here's our hurricane down here, European going all in with very weak steering currents, much weaker than the GFS. And here we go, big ridge developing up here in eastern Canada, trough across the U.S. East Coast. Look at this as we get on into the 30th. This ultimately would help save the East Coast from a direct hit from Melissa. So that would be some great news. We'll keep an eye on it here, but it's not set in stone just yet because it's all the timing of these troughs. And if Melissa does move a little bit slower or faster, it could get in between one of these troughs and then affect the U.S. East Coast. So all eyes will be on Melissa. And we're still watching Tropical Storm Fengshen out here. This system is going to be a devastating rain producer as it moves into North Vietnam here. So the next couple days, this thing is going to stall, and unfortunately, it's going to focus its tropical downpours right across northern Vietnam. Look at northern Philippines, though. You're getting a much-needed break. This tropical moisture feeds all the way back through Taiwan. Watch out. You could get some devastating rainfall amounts as well. Japan's looking pretty good up here. South Korea is looking clear as a bell. Look at that, high pressure builds right into Japan as it keeps all of this moisture and tropical moisture well offshore until we get to about the 30th. We get a big area of low pressure moving through with a cold front. Intertropical convergence zone, yeah, it does look busy, but it doesn't look like any one of these storms will get going anytime soon, which is the good news. We do get a low pressure trying to form out of this one by November 3rd, so we'll keep an eye on it here. We could actually have some sort of tropical system try to form out of that. And look at this. This is hinting a potential typhoon by around the time of November 6th. And looking out here into the Western Pacific, yeah, this is where things are going to get cranking with our tropical system here, right through the north part of North Vietnam. And as you can see here, yeah, this is what we're looking at. Some heavy rain, some areas approaching 600-700 millimeters to east of Taiwan, northern Taiwan here as well, and northern parts of Vietnam. Over 1,000 millimeters with those tropical downpours with our tropical system. Japan, this is all up here with synoptic rainfall, 100 to 150 millimeters. Look at Korea, though. Look at Seoul. 1 millimeter. That's it. All right, so our Canadian weather outlook up here. Let's get that bullseye off. There we go. So Pacific systems will reign supreme out here into British Columbia. Quebec, we have this cutoff low just doing its thing. Lots of showery conditions. That's going to pinwheel these impulses and troughs around it, you know, stirring up the rainfall. Also Pacific systems, it'll just be one right after another here kicking into British Columbia. This one towards the 26th. Now, you finally get some high pressure here, but I know many of you said, do you need the rain in Quebec here? So hopefully we can get even more rain over the next couple weeks. But here it is, this Pacific system barreling in on the 28th. Look at this. This is a massive 960 millibar low. Also a low winding up through Manitoba here and Ontario. Hopefully we can get some of this into Quebec. There we go. So right around the 30th, you see this moving through Quebec. Eventually New Brunswick and Nova Scotia as this low pressure winds up. And another one from the United States moving into southern Quebec and Ontario right around November 3rd. Little breakout here, British Columbia, but watch out, big Pacific system moving in. It even gets some spritzels of rain and snow here into parts of Alberta. Watch out, coastal low action here, Nova Scotia and New Brunswick right around November 5th up to Newfoundland. Heavy rain, gusty winds. As we look at our Canadian rainfall totals here, yeah, it's going to be basically Southeast Canada, Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Newfoundland here, and the West Coast with those big Pacific systems blasting in. Look at this. 200 to 300 millimeters here along the coastal British Columbia area. Even some areas, Saskatchewan, Manitoba up here, 30, 40, maybe 60 millimeters on average. Quebec takes the cake here with the 60 to 80 millimeters, as well as New Brunswick. Look at Nova Scotia, though. Some areas could approach 100 to 125 millimeters. All right, so we're looking at our temperatures here. This is going to be the big story. Look at this cool air, 50s and even some 40s up here in the upper Midwest, 50s in the Ohio Valley, into the Northeast as we cruise through Wednesday. Now look at for Thursday here, October 23rd. You can see up here, 50s continuing, 80s along the Gulf Coast down here, staying pretty warm into Friday. Look at this, reinforcing shot of cooler air coming down from Canada, keeping it cool. That's about average, though, for this time of year. Look at this. We're getting some 60s and 70s back out here into the plains as we head into Saturday and Sunday. Look at this. Yeah, we're holding on to 50s up here. Lakes in the Northeast, 60s. In the middle here, 70s and even near 80 along the Gulf Coast. As we cruise through Monday, October 27th here, look at this. Start to really see a trough dig out west. That's going to push the warm air, 60s, all the way up into parts of the southern Great Lakes by next Monday. Extended forecast from our hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton, Bursaw Square, River Valley of New York and Pennsylvania. Look at this. And we're going to see some rain into the overnight Wednesday as well, some scattered showers, only making it up into the mid-50s here. And that pretty much stays with us through the end of the week. We'll see a chance of showers, more showers and rain on Thursday, maybe another, tenth to a quarter inch. And then look at this, Friday, we get some scattered showers as well. Saturday, it does clear up for the weekend. Really chilly though, low to mid-50s, but that's expected for this time of year. Overnight lows pretty frosty. Plenty more weather to come. Here is a look at my affiliate. Check out these awesome, amazing maps. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MediaMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MediaMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MediaMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget, it's MediaMark.com. And don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks, everyone. Share that video. Subscribe if you haven't. Smash that like button.